Okay, so we're beginning the shoe project. This is a design your own shoe project. We're gonna be working on 12 by 18 paper right here. And you're gonna need to have a shoe that you like to draw. So in the coming days, you're gonna bring in the same shoe day after day to be able to draw it from life. We're gonna take the shoe, sit it along here, and we're gonna draw what we see. Okay, you can't put the shoe back on for the remainder of the project. You have to keep it out. So preferably a non-smelly shoe. Okay, take your shoe, place it in the center of your paper. Now we're drawing the outside of the shoe. I repeat, the outside of the shoe, because if you draw the inside of the shoe over here, like this, and we're tracing it, it rocks back and forth and it's really hard to get a good tracing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my shoe, I'm gonna place it in the center here with the outside facing towards you, and I'm gonna take my pencil and I'm gonna create a rough sketch around the outline of the shoe. Now my shoe is a slightly larger shoe, size 11, and I'm holding my pencil straight up and down. The important thing to remember as you trace around this shoe is to keep your pencil straight up and down, because if you don't, you're not going to get an accurate tracing. Okay, so keep your pencil straight up and down, go slow, take your time. You can always try this a couple times, you can erase it and try it again. Okay, you might not get it right on the first or second time, that's all right. Okay, and there is my shoe. That's the outline of my shoe, and it looks pretty good so far. All right, so I think you can see that. Let's see. We'll take this one. Put this underneath here. It's a little easier to see. Okay, so that's your shoe, the outline of your shoe. You can kind of go back, and I notice I have to kind of touch up this area right here. It doesn't quite look perfect, so I'm going to go back and touch that up, make it look a little bit nicer, a little bit smoother here. Gets a little bit bumpy in some spots, so just even some of that out, and that looks like a good start. Now if you don't do it correct, your shoe's going to kind of look like this. It's going to look a lot thinner like that, because when I traced this one, okay, I had my pencil kind of tilted on an angle like that, and I went around here like this, tilting the pencil on an angle instead of having it straight up and down, okay, and that made the shoe a lot skinnier and thinner than what it should be. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over and go back to this side. Now, while you have your shoe out, you want to make some reference points, or reference marks, I call them. Okay, now this area from the shoe, this neon area from the shoe, it starts out, it's a little bit thicker here, and it gets to a little bit thinner over there. I'm going to make a reference point right here where I think that the part of the neon starts, and then I'm also going to make a reference point right here. I'm going to drop my pencil right down, right there, and I'm going to make a reference point right there too. Those two reference points are where those neon lines are going to kind of start, get a little bit smaller and thinner, and then kind of curve upward like you see right there. So I'm going to start that out and do that, and I'm going to sketch. If you remember last year we learned about sketching, I want you to continue that this year, that same type of drawing technique. So it's kind of going down there, I'm sketching a little bit, it gets a little bit bigger right here. I'm just taking a little hand measurement too, and I'm saying it's about that big. Okay, so it's about that big. It's going to kind of come down here, get a little bit skinnier as it drops down to here. I'm just going to kind of, again, take a hand measurement. I know it goes to right about there. You can also do that with a ruler, but I prefer a hand just because it's a lot quicker. And you can see me tilting the shoe this way. This is just so I can see it a little bit better. I can see it a little bit easier. From your angle, it's probably not going to be as easy to see, but that's what I'm doing. So. And it's coming down here, and it's just going to kind of work its way up to right about where that mark is where it's going to kind of curve to. Okay, so that is my first area of my shoe that I drew. It's this neon area. Now some other things you see here. You see these little treads here. I'm going to work my way from the bottom up from the shoe. I'm going to take those treads, and I'm going to place my shoe down here again, and I'm just going to make some marks. Okay, make a mark here. Make a mark there, make a mark here, and make a mark there. That's where my treads are. It's easier if you stand up while you do this. I'm trying to stand up on one leg here. It's not the easiest, but I'm doing the best I can. So I just made those marks where I saw that the treads were, and then I'm just going to come back and I'm going to kind of like detail them a little bit more. I'm going to put these little treads in there, put a little bit of dimension in there. I'm going to try and put as much detail as I can see in these shoes. If you look at these shoes and you look at those treads, that one looks like it's going like straight through. But if you look on an angle, there's another little line that kind of goes in between there. And I can kind of give it some dimension if you put that extra little line right in between there on an angle. Okay, so that's kind of what I did with mine. And I have to erase that and touch it up, and you might not be able to see it from that angle. But, you know, some other things I have to do in the shoe, I have to put these little lines in there. Or maybe I decided to leave those out, and maybe I'll put like some type of pattern in there instead, because I'm going to customize this possibly. There's a little word right here. It's kind of worn off. It's about that long. So if I wanted to put that word in there, okay, and I do want you to capture as much of the detail as possible in the shoe, I'm going to make a little box from here and making a little mark right there, and to here, make a little mark right there. Those two little marks are going to tell me where that word should go in that little box right there. So I just kind of made that little box pretty much the exact same size as what it is in the shoe. Okay, while I have my shoe out again, let's start working on this panel right here. Okay, that panel right there. I'm going to make some reference marks. Put a mark right up here where the top of this black panel is going to start. Put a line right down here, a little mark right there where the bottom of that panel is going to start. Put a mark right here, okay, where this panel is going to go to. Okay, this panel is going to go all the way to over here, but how high should that panel go? How high should I make that line? Let's take a hand measurement from here to here, and I'm going to say it goes to right a little bit above where I made that mark. Now, it also doesn't go straight down. It kind of goes down a little bit on an angle here. So I'm going to have it go a little bit down on an angle, like this. Kind of goes to almost right about where this little tread is right there. Okay, that's where it lines up with. So I'm going to have it go to there, and then it's going to kind of work its way down from that mark that I made up there. I'm going to have it kind of come up a little bit more this way. And then this part comes from here and just works its way down. Okay, now how big is this section from here to there? Take a hand measurement. Here to there, just about that big. Okay, and that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Add some more details. In that shoe, you can see there's a little tiny thin black line around there. I'm not going to do the Nike sign yet. That's going to be in the next tutorial on how to add details. Okay, for now, we're just going to put the panels in there, and we're going to work from that point. So I'm going to put these in. And, you know, go slow. Go slower than what I'm doing. Take your time. Really analyze what you're seeing. Okay, so we got that going on right there. You know, I'm going to kind of do some little things, some little tricks here, you know, where I'm making these things look like they're wrapping around the other side of the shoe, making it look a little bit more dimensional. If you can see what I'm doing real quick, I'm kind of like curving this around the other side of the shoe, and it's going to make it look like it's wrapping around the other edge. Okay, let's do this panel from here to here. Okay, how big should that panel be? Okay, it goes from this point right here, okay, right there, which is about, I'd say it's about that far, so I'm going to say it's right about there. And where does it go to? Now this is the key point here. We want to get this right. It goes to all the way over here. So if I just, again, bring my pencil straight down, make a little mark, it's going to go to right about this point there. So it's this high. Okay, it's about this high right there. And it's going to work its way down there like that. All right, so that looks good. Another thing I kind of looks like I forgot is this point right here, this little black line that kind of goes above there. So I'm just going to kind of put that in there. I'm just going to make like another level to this. It kind of goes across here. It goes all the way across here, and that's going to be a little section of black. Gets a little skinnier, and then it kind of comes all the way in and right up to where I had my other line. Okay, so I'm just going to make that section. It's going to be that black section in there. Everything looks pretty good still. I'm just going to make this a little bit higher now. Still going to that same point. And then I'm going to keep working my way upward. Okay, there's a little pattern in here. I see a very small pattern in here, so I'm going to put these in here. I like the way it looks, so I'm going to keep it true to the shoe. Okay. And I see another little pattern over here. Kind of looks like a crosshatch type pattern, so I'm going to put that pattern in there. Again, you can change the pattern. If you want to make this like a camouflage pattern, or you want to make this more of like a cheetah print or zebra print pattern, or you want to do some paint drips or something, feel free to customize the shoe. Okay, this is your design, and you're welcome to kind of revamp it and make it your own. Okay, now this section's kind of hard in here. This section's kind of hard. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of say it's about that big. Okay, where does it start? It starts about this far away from the previous line, so I'm going to say it starts about that far away. Okay, it goes up to about this far away from the top of the shoe. Goes up to about that far away at the top of the shoe. It's this long from this section, so it goes to about there. And then I have 3 points that I can kind of just try and generally sketch that shape in there. But I'm looking at this also, I'm like, how far should this come from this last shape that I created right there? Okay, so that's pretty close. So I know it has to come down a lot farther. So it has to come down probably about this far to here, like that, which means, maybe I'm a little bit off, because if I take a measurement here, it's a little bit shorter than what it should be. So I was a little bit off. But it's very easy to adjust as you're doing this if you sketch. Okay, so I got this. I'm going to round that off a little bit. And I think that looks pretty good, but I'm going to erase a little bit of it. I'm just going to keep working at that. And there is another section to show. Now, when you come back for the next video here, I'm going to have more of this done. I'm going to have this section right over here where that separates, and this is the tongue of the shoe. I'm going to have some other details in here, and then we're going to work on some of the finer details like stitches, shoelaces, Nike symbol, and maybe some other little things. All right, thank you guys.